this in our weekly song. Father, thank you for this day. Give us thank you for all the many blessings. I pray that God, you open our hearts today, Lord, as we get deeper bless us on our way in. That keep safe, Father. We love you. Now, so we'll go ahead with Mark.
Okay, Psalm 65, Psalm 119,
Psalm 119, 1:5. Okay.
119. I don't think we had any special. Great peace have they all thy law. Psalm 119.
You know, the horses don't help a little because it's helping joy, peace, you know. And in Revelation 3:20, you know, that's yep, it is. You have to bear down with us. We have a new computer, so we're getting it all set up. You might skip. So you know, we're doing what we can do with it. Might say pictures are this afternoon. Got finished. My intent is to have completely in frame mounted and the lights hooked up, sitting right there come Sunday, and we'll have it plugged in so everybody can see it for lunchtime. And then next week we'll get it installed on top of the sign. So we'll have that out there for that. Also, if you've been watching anything with the church pages, the church Facebook page, let me explain a couple things. We have kicked in a youth movie night. We're going to do March 11th, Saturday. This is going to be for teens and preteens. Here's the thing: is we have, as the Lord's put one of our focuses this year in our children's ministry, music, and ladies ministry. To do a children's ministry effectively, you got to have kind of a youth program to go with it. You got to have a teen ministry because kids have bigger brothers and sisters, bigger brothers and sisters have little kids. So they kind of feed one another. So Michelle and I, being that we had youth experience in the past, we're going to take on the youth program for a little bit of time, but we're going to throw some fleeces out like Gideon did. So we're going to start March 11th. We're just going to do a teen and youth movie night. That's going to be, you know, basically all the kids who can take care of themselves will listen reasonably that will have to become teenagers. I've got some boys on my school bus that are extremely excited about it, interested in coming. Plus, we can work with Eric and Amber, get their kids here, stuff like that. And then the first Sunday night of every month, we're going to start in April and see how it goes. It's a Sunday night at 5 o'clock. We're going to have teen church. So what we're going to do is we're going to run church for teenagers. Michelle and I will be at 5 o'clock that night. We're going to do activities down here first. Fun activities for them, like playing with blowing balloons, sitting on them, popping the fast gun games like that. Real food, and then we're going to take them up for about 45 minutes to an hour and have songs and preaching. And we're not going to water down the preaching. It's all going to, I mean, we're going to bring it down to a kid's level, but we're going to preach and teach the Word of God in an effort to help keep them in church. We're going to do that once a month to see how it goes. And then if the Lord takes it off and it grows, we may go twice a month. We may go as often as we need. But I think right now it's a good way to at least reach out. It's a pure evangelistic opportunity. See what God does with it. So that's so if you see that's where those two are going on. That's what they're out now. The teen church will probably limit the age to 11 at the youngest, just because the activities and stuff like that. We might squeeze in a 10-year-old here or there, but it defeats the purpose of being a teen church if we have a bunch of little kids in there as well. So Michelle and I found that when we split the age of the team, that both ministries flourish better than what they were when they were together. Because when you have kids and teens and you have events designed for the teens, the kids get. You have events designed for the kids, the teens get bored, they don't do it. So, you know, so we just have that. Now, this doesn't require any work from anyone else. I mean, everybody's welcome to come. You're welcome to come to Sunday nights. but I am gonna ask the adults on those nights to sit in the back, have the teens sit up front. And as the Lord brings the teens in, we might get some that can play piano, guitar, here and there, get them acclimated to the music, just get them involved in church. And so I think we'll see it feed both that. And if Miss Susan wants to do a children's church that night, is welcome to. Same time, we'll just have to swap rooms. When we're down here with teens, she'll have to be upstairs with them. Something, and when church is on, she can bring them down here or whatever, however they want to do it. But so because I've got a lot of boys in the bus that are interested, but they've got younger brothers. You know, like, what about my brother? What about that? You know, so my sister, and I'm going to go visit with these families personally the week before the movie night. I sent the book about my life, I sent to their houses through the kids, and they've been reading it. And one boy told me, he was raised off Martin, he told me, Alice, and I read your book, there's a lot of Bible verses in there. And I said, well, that's good. He said, I didn't know the Bible had that many verses. Well, you keep the mindset, right? And so then he tells me something that really shocked me. He's like, I'm reading it to my dad. I'm like, what? Yeah. And he said, I told my dad the bus driver gave about his life, so my dad said, read it to me. So I started reading it. So I'm like, well, Lord, that's one way to go. Because, you know, coming from a public school, putting the gospel in the houses, you know, that's one going to at some point blow up and have great effects. We're going to take the opportunity to take. Plus, it's working with the 8 on the bus. So, again, evangelistic effort, opportunity. And if the first time that church doesn't work, a couple efforts will just stop doing it, you know? But I think it's at least a try worth the exploration to do it. So, when you say it, that's what those two are about. The movie night's just kind of a kickoff. I'll do events with the teens 2 times a year. Mini golf, bowling, whatever it is. And we'll still do our stuff with the adults and church as a whole. But I think it's a good way to build the youth program. So at least get one started. And then we'll eventually work into combining them all fully together somehow along the line. So anybody have any questions on that?
I do have something to share. Freedom Baptist in Auburn, the 26th through the 28th, Randy King is going to be right there. So they have the pastor's fellowship on Monday and Tuesday.
Yeah.
And then so
cool. Good.
They're not having the BC. They don't have anybody to run.
So all right, let's open up to Genesis chapter 43. So yeah, so I'm kind of excited to see how the movie night's going to go. I'll make up flyers for that, hand them out to the parents, and then during that time we're going to have a devotion before we have the movie. We're going to watch Facing the Giants. It's a great movie to watch to start out a group of teenagers with. Anybody here not seen that movie? You ever seen Facing the Giants? It's one of the Kinder brothers, the football team one. Anyway, go on YouTube, look up the trailer Facing the Giants. It'll give you the trailer. And I mean, you're welcome to come. Adults are welcome to come for that movie night, but it's going to be designed mainly for teens and that, and go on from there. So, all right. So Genesis chapter 43. Last week we left off where Joseph had Simeon's brother, right? He kept Simeon back, right? He sent the other brothers back to the father's house, and they told the father, told Israel, said, look, Israel, we need to bring Benjamin with us. And Israel's like, I'm not going to lose my last child. You can't have it. And so that's kind of where we're picking up, all right? And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Reuben put his 2 sons as collateral for the life of Benjamin. And Reuben said, listen, slay my 2 sons and I bring them not to me. So we're going to pick up from there. Verse number 1. And the famine was sore. Well, we knew the famine was everywhere, but that word sore added there. What is that? Really bad. It's extremely bad, right? The famine was so bad that they're probably starting to starve now. People probably starting to go hungry. Probably still in their mindset thinking, we gotta find some kind of food somewhere. We're gonna die. Because if there's no food growing, the animals aren't growing either, right? The animals aren't produced, they're not doing anything to do. Guarantee you, eggs back then probably were not $4 a dozen, please. Or you weren't even getting them at that point. So, number 2, it came to pass when they had eaten up the corn which they had brought out of Egypt, their father said unto them, go again, buy us little food. Remember, all the boys, they had 10 boys come back. No, 9 boys came back. 10 went, 9 came back, and they all had their sacks all full. Remember, they had the extra money was in with the sacks food. So they ate up all that, ate up everything that was in the house, and now their father, Jacob, Israel, says unto them, hey, go buy us a little bit of food. All right. Verse 3, and Judah spake unto him, saying, the man did solemnly protest unto us, saying, ye shall not see my face, except your brother be with you. So Judah's reminded Israel, telling us, look, we cannot go and buy food unless Benjamin is with us, because he specifically told us the only way we can see him again, and he's the only one we can buy. So they're kind of in a quandary. Jacob's hands are kind of getting tired here from them. Number right worksheet, number 1, verses 1 and 2. The corn and food that they had bought the first time was now gone. Verse 3. Judah reminds his father of what Joseph said about bringing Benjamin with them. Verse 4. If thou wilt send our brother with us, we will go down and buy thee food. So Judah's telling him, Judah's like, look, Dad, you got to send Benjamin with us. If he comes with us, we can go buy the food. What he's telling. Verse 5. But if thou wilt not send him, we will not go down, for the man said unto us, ye shall not see my face, except your brother be with you. So Judah's like, look, we're not going to go down and see him, because he's probably going to kill us, because we disobeyed his order, so we got to have the brother. Now, Jacob, being a still man, I mean, he goes blessed by guys, he's at a point now he realizes he really has no choice. Okay? And it's a tough position when you realize you got no choice on certain things, right? Number 3, verses 4 and 5, they will not go without their brother. And it sounds like here that Judah's refusing to go, but Judah kind of is, but out of spite to his father. He's doing it out of fear for their lives. That's what he's doing, it's just like, it's like going to the tax collector without the money, I mean, what are you going to do, Verse 6, and Israel said, wherefore dealt ye so ill with me, as to tell the man whether he had yet a brother? So Jacob's saying, why would you even tell the man he had a brother? Why would you deal so badly with me and even tell him you had a brother? That's what Jacob's saying here. Why would you say, wherefore, and said, wherefore dealt ye so ill with me, as to tell the man whether he had yet a brother? And they said, the man asked us straightly of our state and of our kindred, saying, is your father yet alive? Have ye another brother? And we told them, according to the tenor of these words, could we certainly know that he would say, bring your brother down? So Judah said, he specifically asked us, is our father alive, our brother alive? Now, nobody put together why would Joseph ask those specific questions.
Well, the thing is, even in this situation, they're all starving, and Israel's like, what are you done so ill with me?
Yep. Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even with it. Huh?
Was he a narcissist?
Oh, here we go, using big words.
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to words so much. I'm just kidding. Praise the Lord. Verse 8. And Judah said unto Israel his father, send a lad with me. We will arise and go, that we may live and not die, both we and thou, and also our little ones. So Judah tells Jacob, look, Dad, you got to send him with me. He goes, we'll go down, we'll buy the food. If not, every one of us, you, me, Benjamin, who he wants to keep alive, the handmaids, all of our kids are all going to die. So that's the reality of it. So they had to do that. Number 4 in your worksheet, 6 through 8. Israel says, why did you tell the man you had, which we talked about, verse 9, I will be surety for him. My hand thou shalt require him, if I bring him not unto thee, and set him before thee, then let me bear the blame forever. What does it mean by I will be a surety for him?
Yeah, collateral.
Collateral, yep. So if you look at your worksheet, Judah would be the surety. Surety simply defined as one who is legally liable for the debt, default, or failure in duty of another, the one responsible. The collateral, he's the one who's going to be held accountable. You have that. Now, who was it that put the sons up?
It was Reuben.
Yeah, Reuben. So Reuben and Judah are kind of thinking the same lines now here. Listen, Dad, we will pay. I'll put my kids on. Judah's like, I'll put my life on it. We will protect Benjamin. We will make sure he comes.
Well, I would hope so, considering what they did to Joe.
Yep. So all right, verse 10. For except we had lingered, surely now we have returned the second time. For except we had lingered, now we have returned. Oh yeah. So in other words, it said, except when they were held up, right? We were at number 5, so verse 11. And their father Israel said unto them, if it must be so now, do this. Take of the best fruits in the land in your vessels, and carry down the manner of presents, a little balm and a little honey, spices and myrrh, nuts and almonds, and take double money in your hand, and the money that was brought again in the mouth of your sacks, carry it again in your hand, peradventure it was oversight. So Israel tells his kids, all right, listen, grab the best what we got left, take it, take some myrrh, take some honey, take back the money that they sent you, give double the money for them, or take this big gift. He said, take the money, he's basically telling, take the money you brought back, peradventure, in other words, just in case it was an oversight, just in case it was an accident, right? And so that's where they're at here. Verse 13, take also your brother and arise and go again unto the man. So Jacob is finally letting him go. Number 6 in your worksheet, 11 through 13, Israel is letting the boys go and telling them to take the gifts and the money that had been returned back to them. Verse number 14, and God Almighty give you mercy before the man, that he may send away your other brother and Benjamin. If I be bereaved of my children, I am bereaved. Joseph or Jacob, Israel here is finally saying, we're going to have to trust God on this. We're going to pray that he's going to send back Simeon and he's going to send back Benjamin. But if it's a perish, they perish. Right? He's saying here, if I am bereaved of my children, I am bereaved. In other words, if I lose my children, so be it, I lose my children. He's not saying so be it like it's no big deal. It's like so be it, he can't change it. If it happens, he'll deal with it. So that's where he's at here. Verse 7. Israel's prayer that all the boys get returned, and if not, it is what it is. Verse 15. And the men took that present, and they took double the money in their hand, and Benjamin, and went down to Egypt and stood before Joseph. Now they still have no idea that this is Joseph. All right? And Joseph seems to mess with them as we get through this chapter, but when you get towards the end, you start realizing that all this has to happen for these boys to fully get to that repentance of what they did with Joseph. And for them to realize just the full impact of what all happened. Verse 16, and when Joseph saw Benjamin with them, he said to the ruler of his house, bring these men home and slay and make ready, for these men shall dine with me at noon. So when the boys showed up to Joseph, what did he do?
He made a feast for him.
He invited them over for lunch, right? Made a big feast for him. I mean, the man can't be that bad, right? You go in to buy, you haven't even asked for your money yet. He's taking you to a personal house for lunch. So, of course, the thinking process of these boys wasn't real productive along the way, because, some of us would still ask questions. Of course, then again, we had to be in that situation, right? When Joseph sees his brothers, he brings them all up for supper, for lunch, because it was, I think, it said noonday, right? Yeah. Verse 17. And the man did as Joseph bade, and the man brought the men into Joseph's house. And the men were afraid because they were brought into Joseph's house, and they said, because of the money that was returned in our sacks at the first time we are brought in, that he may seek occasion against us and fall upon us and take the poor bondmen and our asked. So the boys get into Joseph's house. Now they're scared that they're going to be made bondmen. Them and their horse animal and everything they brought with them. That Joseph's going to confiscate that, because in their minds they're thinking, he thinks we stole the money, now we're being punished for it. Okay, so these boys find themselves in a lot of quandaries. I mean, look at me using a big word. A lot of quandaries here lately going on. So, verse number 9 in your worksheet, 17 through 18. The brothers think that they are in trouble for the return of the money from the first trip to Egypt. 19. And they came entered the steward of Joseph's house, and they continued with him at the door of, communed with him at the door of the house. So, the steward Joseph, the house master, the one that's in charge. Remember how Joseph was in Potiphar's house? That's kind of what the house master is, the man of the house. The one that runs everything, called the head butler, the head servant, whatever it is. He's the one who gives all the assignments, make sure everything's done, take care of when the master walks in, make sure everything's perfect for him. Like what Joseph did with Potiphar. Verse 26, and when Joseph came home, they brought him the presents which was in their hand into the house. Did I miss a verse?
Yeah, number 20.
Oh, verse 20, sorry. And he said, "Oh, sir, we came indeed down the first time." So they're now telling the house. And said, "Oh, sir, we came indeed down at the first time to buy food. And it came to pass when we came to the inn that we opened our sacks, and behold, every man's money was in the mouth of his sack, our money in full weight, and we have brought it again into our hands." So they're explaining, look, man, we didn't do this on purpose. We got to the inn, we opened our sacks, all the money was there. Because they're still thinking they're going to get. Verse 22. And other money have we brought in our hands to buy food. We cannot tell who put our money in our sacks. So they're telling the story, and they're like, look, man, we don't know who did it. But we brought that money back plus our own money to buy the food. Number 10 in the worksheet. The brothers are explaining to the steward, the manager of the house, what had happened. Verse 23. And he said, "Peace be to you, fear not." Now, I like how these people recognize God, but they don't believe in God. See, the steward of the house, fear not, your God and the God of your father hath given you treasure in your sacks. I had your money, and he brought Simeon out unto them. So, the leader of the house here, the house manager, he was a steward of the house. Sorry, he's like, look, your God gave you blessing, this man.
Wonder if maybe he was serving the God because he was in Joseph's house, and I'm sure Joseph had a testimony of serving God because
Right.
he was faithful.
Well, I'm sure he knew who God was, but he obviously didn't make it his God when he said your God and the God of your fathers, so our God and God of your fathers. He said your on both occasions, but he must
show the power.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. He knew the power of God. He knew the power of God. So verse 24, and the man brought the men into Joseph's house and gave them water, and they washed their feet. He gave their asses to prevent. So we see here that the man said, "Have given you treasure." I had your money. The man said, I had your money, and he brought out Simeon unto them. In other words, he took the money from the boy, from the guys, brought their brother out. He brought them into Joseph's house and gave them water, washed their feet, and fed their cattle. So fed their animals. So they're being taken care of at this particular point. Number 11 on your worksheet, 23 through 24. The steward had told them it was him that put the money in their sacks, not the fear, and he showed them their brother. Verse 25. And they made ready the present against Joseph, came at noon. And they made ready the present against Joseph, came at noon, for they heard that they should eat bread there. So they were told they were going to eat lunch here when Joseph got here. All right, verse 25, verse 12 in your sheet. They made their presents ready to give to Joseph. Verse 26. And when Joseph came home, they brought him the present which was in their hand into the house, and bowed themselves to him to the earth. Now, what was the vision Joseph had before all this started? We talked about that his sheep stood up and the others bowed down to him. And of course, we still haven't gotten to the second dream that he had where the sheep, even mom and dad's sheep, bowed down. But this one here was the brothers. Verse 27, he asked them of their welfare and said, "Is your father Wells, the old man of whom he spake, is he yet alive?" So some time must have gone by. Some time must have gone by between the last visit and this visit. Of course, I'm sure it takes a little bit of travel time too, as well. Plus, they had to eat up everything they had before. taken to reserve, so there's a little bit of time. That's why he asked him before he knew the father was still alive. He's asking if he's still alive. Basically. All right, verse 28. And they answered, "Thy servant our father is in good health. He is yet alive." And they bowed down their heads and made obeisance. In other words, they bowed respectfully. Verse 20, number 13. Joseph and the boys met, and Joseph asked them how things are. Obeisance simply defined as devout. So, verse 29. And he lifted up his eyes and saw his brother Benjamin, his mother's son, and said, "Is this your younger brother of whom ye spake unto me?" And he said, "God be gracious unto thee, my son." And Joseph made haste, for his bowels did yearn upon his brother, and he sought where to weep, and he entered into the chamber and wept there. Joseph saw his younger brother. They had a family reunion, and wrote Joseph's heart. He had to see his brother. You know, it's like when you have a family member that you've been estranged from for a long time, you get back together, there's that creep, that weep, you got all the different kind of emotions. Joseph was looking for a place to go cry because he was happy to see his brother, but yet he'd been depraved of him for a while. Brother had been depraved of him. You know, Joseph started to get back, or started, you know, he's seen the people in his family he hasn't seen in years. Remember, he was just a teenager when slavery hit.
It says he's seen his younger brother, Benjamin. I know we talked about the other day that we didn't think he was Benjamin could have been born at that time.
Yeah.
Remember we mentioned that. Well, here he's weeping for his little brother.
Yeah.
I mean, if you didn't know he was even born, why would he be weeping?
Right. Yeah. Very true. Very true. So, you know, yeah, and so he weeps for him. He goes to find a place to weep because he doesn't want to go to big bag. Joseph doesn't want to weep in front of people, right? So he goes and finds a place. He's having that somber reunion there. He sees Benjamin, and it just gives him up. So like what he would do with his father. Yes.
He was born before Joseph was
here. Yeah.
So when he was in the pit, he was already born.
Yeah, he's here and born.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
What's the age difference between him?
So he was the departing. It doesn't give an exact age, but he was pretty young still, because Joseph was only 17.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
by this time he's getting in his 30s.
Yeah. Well, we know Joseph was 30 when he took the second grain ship, and we're already 7 years. The feast is gone, so Joseph's at least 37. And now we're in the famine in a couple of years. Joseph's probably closer to 40 right now. But we figure out the age here. So verse 31. And he will face and went out and refrained himself and set on bread. Joseph gets done, goes back crying, cleans his face up, comes out, tells the servant, put the bread on the table. And they set on for him by himself, and for them by themselves were the Egyptians which did eat with him by themselves, and for the Egyptians which did eat with him by themselves, because the Egyptians might not eat bread with evil. From the Egyptians. If you like these two tables here, the boys' table, Joseph had to be here at the other table. Otherwise, they couldn't sit with them and eat because it was involved. They could eat in the same room together. So Joseph had his place. They set the boys somewhere else, so that the two had separate eating places. Verse 33. And they sat with one another. In other words, like how did they know who was in what age and all that stuff, right? And messes unto them before him, and Benjamin's mess was 5 times messes.
To send their food from
Portions of food.
Portion and Benjamin else did. Could you imagine us having a man sitting next to Benjamin now, you know.
overflow?
He wasn't the coach sold him, and it's all history from there. Uh, Put every man's money in his sack's mouth, and put my cup, the silver cup, for money, and he did according to the word that Joseph spoke. Now, Joseph here is working on some kind of a plan. He tells Stewart now, and take this one cup that's valuable of mine, and put it back. That valuable item, right? Verse 3. And as soon as the morning was light, the men were sent away, they and their asses. Number 1, verses 1 through 3. The brothers' bags their money was in the bags, and the silver cup from Joseph's house was in the bag. Verse 4. And when they were gone out of the sea, and not yet far off, Joseph said unto his steward, Up, follow after the men, and when thou dost overtake them, say unto them, Wherefore have ye rewarded evil for good? So, wherefore have ye rewarded evil for good? So in other words, Joseph tells his steward, look, take an army with you, go catch up to the men, find them, and when you get there, say, look, man, we did all this good for you, and how come you did us wrong? That's what Joseph tells the steward to do. Now, the steward of the house, his job's not to question, his job's to do, right? But he doesn't have a mind of his own. What do you think he's thinking? He's like,
Why did he set him up?
yeah, he's like, man, you did this, you set him up, now you want me to go after him. You know, the steward was none of my business, I'll go catch him and ask him, you know. And then again, maybe Joseph could find anything on what he was doing, you know? But the servants' jobs were not to question what their leadership was to do when they were asked to do.
Like with Hitler, Germany, and the guards, what they did to the people in the concentration camps,
Oh yeah,
their excuse was, I was only doing my job.
right. But no, I agree. There comes a point that you got to stand up. But in these particular situations here, you know, this was immediate disobedience. There, you know. Verse 5. It's not this it in which my Lord drinketh, whereby indeed he divideth, he done evil, and so doeth. So we'll go with that with verse 4 again. And when they were gone out of the city, and not yet far off, Joseph said unto his steward, Up, follow after the men, and when thou dost overtake them, say unto them, Wherefore have ye rewarded evil for good? Is not this it in which my Lord drinketh, and whereby indeed he divided? Ye have done evil, so
Like reading tea leaves, like reading tea leaves, fortune teller thing.
oh yeah. Yeah, so he's supposed to take him when he finds the cup, and why, you know, this is my master. You know, so verse number 2 on your worksheet, go and chase after them and accuse them of stealing the cup. That's basically what he was telling them. Verse 6, and he overtook them, and he spake unto them these same words. And they said unto him, Wherefore saith my Lord these words? God forbid that thy servant should do according to this thing. So the boys are like, man, God forbid. Basically, how dare you accuse us of doing that? We weren't doing that. God forbid that we should do this. Now we're going to see a similarity here in just a minute of something that's said. Now we're going to see that Jacob said when Rachel stole the idols from her father Laban, right? And Jacob had no idea she had. So we're going to see something here. Verse 8. Behold, the money which we found in our sacks found, we brought it in unto thee out of the land of Canaan. How then should we steal out of thy Lord's house silver or gold? In other words, the boys say, look, the money we had the first time, we brought it back. What makes you think we're going to steal from it? We brought it, we stole, we wouldn't have brought the money back. I mean, you know, plain and simple. Verse 9. With whomsoever my servant did be found, both him die, and we also will be my Lord's bond. So that they knew they had stolen. They made a promise, the same as Jacob did with Laban. No, I never. Jacob told Laban, so we see some serious boys like who's and he's saying who's ever the servants that find in, then they'll be dead and will become bonds. That's how sure they were they didn't steal it. Verse number 3, verse 6 to 9. The accusation made, the boy said, if someone stole it, let them die, and reward his bonds. I put a small L on it. This is what Jacob said when leaving Laban's home, not knowing Rachel had taken her father's idols. Verse 10. And he said, now also let it be according unto your words. He with whom it is found shall be my servant, and he shall be blameless. So the steward of the house said, all right, according to your words, whoever we find down there, they'll be our bondsman, and you'll be blameless. So he's like, all right, listen, we'll work that deal out and find it in. Number 4, verse 10 says, let's just make the one that took it a bond. Verse he took down every man his sack, took down his sack, and he searched and began at the eldest. Interesting how he began at the eldest, right? Because he knew where the cup was. He knew where the cup was. So I think you keep that anticipation going, that curiosity, that wondering going on. Because these boys are mine guys. I mean, you don't take it, or probably ask them, did one of y'all take it? Because verse 11, and they speedily took down every man his sack to the ground, and opened every man his sack. And he searched and began at the eldest, and left at the youngest, and the cup was found in Benjamin's sack. Then they rent their clothes and ladded every man his ass, and returned to the city. You know why they rented their clothes? Because what was the promise they made to their father?
They would bring him back home.
They guaranteed they'd bring their son back home, his youngest son back home. They bet their lives on it. They were plans. Now they rent their clothes, and they might have been thinking that Benjamin took it, but the boys might have, that thought might have gone through their mind. Look, when somebody has something they get accused of, we tend to ask, no matter how much they did, we tend to ask them about it. Come on, all done at some point, right? We still have that trust point. Still have that thought. So they rent their clothes. They were in sorrow, but so they packed up all back to the city where Joseph was. Number 5 on your worksheet, 11 through 13. The search is on, and they found the cup of Benjamin's bag. Verse number 14. And his brother came to Joseph's house, for he was yet there, and they fell before him on the ground. And Joseph said to them, what deed is this that he has done? Not that such a man as I can serve mine? In other words, I know what's going on. I see what's going on. I can give you rich, I take stuff away, whatever. Don't you know that Joseph said that? 16. And Judah said, say unto my Lord, what shall we speak? How shall we clear ourselves? God hath found out the iniquity of thy servant, the Lord's service, both we and he also, with whom the cup is found. So here's the thing, though, they're being punished for something they didn't do, as Joseph was punished for something he didn't do when he was in the pit. No, I found out the iniquity of thy servants. In other words, God revealed. I think in that moment, Judah had to come to Jesus talk at that moment, or come to God reality. I think everything that he did to Joseph flashed in his mind. Everything he did to Joseph flashed in the mind. How he lied, deceived their dad, all that stuff, and now he's realizing they're having. When they've sown that, now they're going to have to reap this, because now they're going to be thrown into bondage. Wasn't Joseph sold into bondage? Yes. He was sold into slavery. See, so and so that's the point here that Judah's at with the brothers. So I think the whole reality thing fell at that moment to Judah. Yes, sir.
You think this is maybe God's using Joseph to purge out that lying and deceiving familiar out of their family by him doing this stuff.
Maybe.
God said he visits the iniquities of the fathers on the third generation.
Absolutely.
And this would be about the third generation here, because Abraham did the same thing. He's saying, she's my sister, not my wife, you know, and so.
Yeah.
So this lying and deceiving just keeps getting worse.
It does. It does. And it could be a way of purchase. Like I said, I think for Judah, I think the whole reality of everything will just hit it that too.
Yeah.
So number 6 in your worksheet, they have realized their sin has caught up to them, and they are committing themselves to the bond service of Joseph. I believe they are experiencing true repentance.
Yeah.
So number 223, the last part of it says, and be sure your sins will find you out. It doesn't say they could possibly find us. Be sure. It doesn't say be sure they could find us. Be sure they will find you out. So it's a sad place right here. But let's go on. Verse 17. And he said, God forbid that I should do so. But the man in whose hand the cup was found, he shall be my servant. And as for you, get you up in peace unto your father's house, or unto your father. So Joseph, like, God forbid that I should do that to you. I'm only going to keep one who the cup was found. Let's y'all go back to your father. Now, most promises that were made. So now Benjamin or Judah and at least Reuben have to kind of fight for Joseph for Benjamin here. You know, hey, listen, man, we're not leaving without leaving, you know, because we promised Dad. Number 7, verse 17. Joseph say, no, it is only the one whose cup is in the bag that will remain with me. Verse 18. Then Judah came near unto him and said, O Lord, let thy servant, I pray thee, speak a word in my Lord's ears, and let not thine anger burn against my servant, for thou art even as Pharaoh. So Judah's going up to him and says, my Lord, I need to talk to you for a minute. Please don't be angry with me, but just let me have a moment of your time. So he's asking. He's asking nicely. He said, because I know that you're just as Pharaoh is. Whatever you say is law, and you know, so he's asking about that. Verse 19. My Lord asked his servants, saying, my Lord asked his servants, saying, have ye a father or brother? And we said unto my Lord, we have a father, an old man, and a child of his old age, a little one, and his brother is dead. And he alone is left of his mother, and his father loveth him. Now, look at this truth in here. Jacob has all these sons, Israel does. But the two that he loved the most were the ones that were born by the wife he loved initially. He got stuck with the other one. I don't mean that stuck in a bad way, but he was tricked out of Rachel with Leah, right? He didn't really love her. And he had children with her. Then Rachel and Leah played the game with each other, the handmaid game. You know, you take my handmaid, you take mine, and all that. So all these kids are born. But the two that Jacob loved were Joseph and Benjamin. That's why he said he's the brother of what was that said? Verse 20. And he said unto my Lord, we have a father, an old man, and a child of his old age, a little one, and his brother's dead. Now, those two alone, his brother's dead. They're referring to Joseph as being dead at this point. And he alone is left of his mother, and his father loveth him. Now, Jacob, Israel, all he knew growing up was a partiality of parents' loves, right? Because Isaac loved Esau, Rachel loved Jacob. Not saying they loved the other one, but they loved the one more. My wife and I, we got 2 dogs, all right? I love the white one more than I love the brown one, all right? Because the white one's my dog, he hangs out with me, we both together. The brown one just annoys me after he barks it. You can have a truck pop a gear 20 blocks down the road and that brown one's all the time.
Yeah.
But you know, it's not that I don't love the brown one, I just love the white one a whole lot more. And that's kind of the love that Joseph or that Jacob knew growing up. And that's the same love for his brothers. Listen, my dad loved him very much, loves us, but he loves him more. So let's look at the plan doing verse 21. And said, and now saidest unto thy servant, bring him down unto me, that I may set my eyes upon him. And we said unto my Lord, I cannot leave his father, for if he should leave his father would die. And thou saidest unto thy servant, except your youngest brother come down with you, ye shall see my face no more. So they're reminding Joseph of everything that he told them. Look, we wouldn't have even brought the brother, because it was going to kill our father if anything happened with him. But you told us we couldn't buy any of this unless we brought our brother with us. Verse 24. And it came to pass, when we came up unto thy servants, my father, we told him the words of my Lord. And our father said, go again and buy us little food. And we said, we cannot go down if our younger brother be not with us, or if our youngest brother be with us, then we will go down, for we may not see the man's face except our youngest brother be with us. So they're beginning to tell Joseph, hey, we told our dad this, and we told him we can't go unless the younger brother comes. Verse 27. And thy servant, my father, said unto us, ye know that my wife bare me 2 sons. Say, his wife, he had 2. Actually, he had 4. He had the time together. And then he had the one after Rachel. He got married again after Rachel died. Did he get married again? No, maybe not. Maybe not. What if Abraham got married again? That's what I'm thinking of. Abraham got married again. So he's like, and thy servant, my father, said, what's verse 28, yeah. And the one went out for me, and I said, surely he is torn to pieces. Yeah, let me start for a second. And I served my father, said this, you know that my wife bare me 2 sons. And the one went out for me, and I said, surely he is torn to pieces, and I saw him not since. And if you take this also from me, my ship befall him, ye shall bring down my gray hair of sorrow to the grave. So they're telling Joseph what Jacob had said. Listen, man, you know, my one son got killed, got tore up by an animal, killed. That's all Jacob knew. All right, his son got tore up, killed by an animal, and now you take my youngest one. I'm going to die because those 2 are dead. You know, the 2 boys that he more than the others. Verse 30. Now therefore, when I come to thy servant, my father, and the lad be not with us, seeing that his life is bound up in the lad's life, it shall come to pass when he seeth that the lad is not with us, that he will die, and thy servant shall bring down thy gray hairs of thy servant our father with sorrow to the grave. Notice how the boys say, our father's life is tied up in drugs.
Yeah.
That's his everything, that little boy Benjamin right there. And so they're telling Joseph, look, if we come back to that, it's going to kill our father. Now, Joseph, we know, doesn't want it to happen because their father is also Joseph's father. But they don't know. Verse 8, or number 8 in your worksheet, verses 18 through 31. The telling of the situation to Joseph that Israel will die if they do not come back with Benjamin. Benjamin was loved by Jacob. It's great to have that kind of father's love. However, you got all the kids, you got to love them all the same. You do, you know, I mean, you know, there's some you might get along with better than you do others, but you got to love them all the same, you know. I mean, it is what it is, right? Verse 32. For thy servant became surety for the lad unto my father, saying, if I bring him not unto thee, then I shall bear the blame to my father forever. So Judah's telling Joseph, look, I stake my life on this. I will take the responsibility. I will be the one, probably cast out of the family, whatever. You know, I'm the one that's going to have to bear this burden the rest of my life. You know, and again, I think Judah's trying to. I think his repentance took place. I think he's trying to do the right thing, trying to make things right at this point. He's no longer interested in deceiving and deception. Like he just wants to get it worked out. Verse 33. Now therefore I pray thee, let thy servant abide instead of the lad, a bond Lord, and let the lad go with his brother. Judah is saying, let me take the place of Benjamin. Let Benjamin go. I'll be your bond servant. He was willing. Judah was willing to forsake and let his wife, kids, all that stuff go. He didn't think to be in the bond service of Joseph for the rest of his life to spare the lives of Benjamin. See, he wasn't willing to go that far with Joseph. When they put Joseph in. Now, Judah was the one that wanted, I think it was Judah was the one that didn't really want everything to happen, or was it Reuben?
Reuben.
Reuben. So Reuben didn't really want everything to happen, and Joseph did. He wanted him to put in the pit, but he didn't want him sold. He just kind of wanted to teach him a lesson. The other brothers, Judah included, was one of the ones that, hey, tell him, get him out of here. Judah has had a whole change of life. You know, Judah actually becomes, so the nation of Israel, it starts out with 12 tribes. You get to the Bible splits up into 10 tribes and 2 tribes. You have the tribe of Israel, the tribe of Judah, all coming from Judah and the father. And for a while, the tribe of Judah is the one that's blessed while Israel's living in sin. And you'll see that reason the Chronicles in the Bible takes place. Verse 34. For how shall I go up to my father, and the lad be not with me, lest peradventure I see evil that shall come upon, or that shall come on my father. So Judah said, how can I go back to my father? This evil that's done to him now, I lost another son, it's going to kill him. So number 9 in the worksheet, 32 to 34, Judah is pleading to be the substitute for Benjamin. He did not do that for Joseph. We're going to hold off there. We'll pick up at 45 next week. Maybe 45, 46, and we're going 47. Actually, we'll get through 46 because a lot of it is in lineage again. So we'll read through that and the son of all the way through. And so we might go through that. So a lot's going on here. This last part of Genesis, huh? You know, as some I'll say it 2 weeks. Next, say it in 2 weeks. So, all right. So, good study night. So, let's you folks online, if you're still with us, if it hasn't skipped around too much, we'll catch y'all Sunday. All right. Bye bye. So, may look like it'll skip